Before we get into today's video, smash that like button. Love to get to 300 likes in this video. Let's get this thing started right now. On today's show, we're going to be going over the injury report. A lot of injuries occurring. The Lions signed a quarterback. We're going to talk about him. The Lions have some issues at depth. We're going to get into that. Observations from practice, and should the Lions trade for Haason Reddick? Let's start with the injuries right here, and they are piling up like absolute crazy. The Lions' injuries are starting to fill. Jahmyr Gibbs dealing with a hamstring. No practice. Terrion Arnold, cornerback, issue, hamstring. Ennis Rakestraw, issue, injury. Hendon Hooker, we already know the concussion from the game. Sam Laporta dealing with a hamstring. James Houston, injury. David Botta, Achilles. We pretty much done for the year there. Lee McNeil, Deron Gilbert, Malcolm Rodriguez, Carlton Davis, and Maurice Norris, all injured right now for the Detroit Lions. And man, oh man, that's a pretty significant list. And usually I'm not big into concern level or issues, but now the injuries are really starting to pile up. And we got to get a break here. I don't know if it's, less practice or slow it down a little bit or something, but the injuries are starting to pile up, and we need to get these guys to be fresh for the regular season. We don't need none of these injuries coming into week one and going forward. With hamstrings, they can be tedious. They can be something that can linger, so we need to really get these players under control with the injury front and get ready for the regular season. So I got a question for you. What is your concern level right now for the Lions' injuries? 1, if you're not concerned at all. 10, if you think they are a big concern. Let's continue on. The Lions signed a quarterback, Jake Fromm, State Farm, here to be a quarterback 3 or 4 right now, depending what you want to do. He's 6'2", 215 pounds. He's got 8-inch hands. He was drafted in 2020, 5th round, 22 selection out of Georgia. He's 26 years old. His career-wise, what has this man done? He had 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown, 210 yards, 45% completion. When I look at Jake from State Farm, I think that he's better than Nate Sudfeld. That is my instant take from this right here. But look, he is going to be used probably just for preseasons because of our quarterback, Hendon Hooker, being unable probably to play due to a concussion, so we can come here and take some of those snaps in preseason. But make no mistake about it, Sudfeld played so bad that bringing in a quarterback is essential, not just for the Hendon Hooker injury. It's because Sudfeld played so bad. So I don't know if he's going to make the roster, the 53-man roster, but that is a player who they've brought in here. He is 26-year-old, basically journeyman. He's played on many, many teams, team to team to team to team. The odds are he won't be lasting here, but that's what they did. Also, we got to talk about the injury to Antoine Greene. It resulted him being released from the Detroit Lions, 7th-round pick last year. Dealt with a concussion in the preseason game. The Lions released him. Now, look, they could, if he clears waivers, whether they could put him on the IR or he can just go ahead and compete with another team. This, we're going to talk about how it relates to the Lions' wide receiver 3/4 battle that's taken place. But Greene is no longer here, so that's going to spell good news for Donovan Peoples-Jones right now, who he's been competing with, and Darius Fountain. They could bring him back, but it would be placed on IR. And talking about getting into the wide receiver issues, Dan Campbell spoke about this. We're waiting for somebody to step forward, Campbell said. We're waiting for any one of these guys to step forward. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I felt like has been, since the game, much better. He's playing faster, and I noticed it all out. It's also encouraging. Darius Fountain and Traquan Smith and Caden Davis, we're dying for somebody to step up and say, hey, man, I'm the guy. I'm the guy you can depend on. I'll be the same consistent player every day and find a way to make plays that come our way. All in all, it's definite some problems for the Lions receiver issues. Who is going to step up for the Detroit Lions? who is going to be that guy? Darius Fountain, he's shown some growth in OTAs and training camp, but he did well. He didn't have really anything to show for it in preseason. Same with Donovan Peoples-Jones, even though he had that one haul for 26 yards. No one is really stepping in for wide receiver 4. They say 3, but I'm saying 4. I do believe Kalif Raymond is going to be your wide receiver 3. So who is going to be 4? Could it be a Robert Woods who could potentially get released when the Houston Texans make their cuts? That's an option. We've talked about it before that the Lions need to take the time to figure out who is going to be the guy. And if nobody stands out, you can always look towards roster cuts. You can always look for players who get released from other teams. And I think that's a legitimate option now for the Detroit Lions because no one's really separating. And I think we need to have that wide receiver 4 locked up. And you say, oh, it's just a wide receiver 4, but we're going to have injuries throughout the year. There's going to be times where St. Brown probably gets injured or Kalif gets injured like he did right before the playoffs last year. Same with Jameson Williams. So the Lions need to have good depth right there. They just do. So I got a question for you. What is your concern level for the Lions wide receiver 3/4 battle? 1 if you think it's not a big deal, 10 if you think it's gigantic. Really enjoy going to sports games and concerts, all of that. It's one of my favorite things to do outside of obviously work and hanging out with family. And I like to do it smart by saving money, and that's why you need to get Game Time. They have killer deals, last-minute tickets, and lowest prices guaranteed where you can stop stressing and start getting hyped for the fun that you're going to have. Look, it is easy to find and buy tickets for any kind of event in your area, whether that's sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, or whatever. With their lowest prices guaranteed, that's the Game Time guaranteed, which means you're always getting the best prices. And if you find tickets in the same area section or less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, baseball, basketball, concerts, and more. In the middle screenshot, by the way, I think it is a fantastic feature of the app. It shows you where your seat is, and it'll move your phone left to right. You can see the surrounding area like a 3D live photo. All you got to do is download Game Time. You plug in Chat Sports, and you're going to get $20 off your very first purchase. Again, download Game Time. Go to the redeem code section, plug in Chat Sports. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. You do got to create an account. You got to have an email to save that money. The link and information is going to be in the comment section and description of this video. So if you are buying Lions tickets this year, any sort of tickets, use Game Time. Save that money. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets prices with lowest prices guaranteed. Here, folks, and we're going to be talking about Haason Reddick. Now, this is a player whom I said the Lions could look to trade for if nobody really steps up at the edge position opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. And per Adam Schefter, the edge rusher Haason Reddick has now officially requested a trade from the New York Jets. Here's the Jets statements, because remember, the Jets traded for him this offseason from the Eagles. So it'd be a double trade. This is what the Jets said. They said, we have informed Haason that we will not trade him, and that is expected to be here with his teammates, and he will continue to be a fined per CBA if he does not report. Since the trade discussions back in March, we have been clear, direct, and consistent with our position. Our focus will remain on the guys we have here and to prepare for the regular season. Here is who Haason Reddick. He's 29 years old, 6'1", out of Temple, drafted in 2017 in the first round. Haason Reddick is a good player. What did he do last year? He played in 17 games. He had 23 quarterback hits, 11 sacks, 29 solos, 0 forced fumbles. Career-wise, he's a baller. 114 games played, 99 quarterback hits, 58 sacks, 263 solo tackles with 16 forced fumbles. Haason Reddick is a good player. But the Jets are saying they're not going to trade him, and they had to trade a third-round pick to get him. So I'm sure they're in a funky situation. I still think this would be an option if the Lions do not have somebody that really steps out other than Aiden Hutchinson. We don't really know, though, because Marcus Davenport hasn't done a lot really that we have seen. So we got to see what Marcus Davenport can do. Some other edges have stood out, but it is a legit option for the Lions if they really wanted to look into it. I'm not saying they're going to make a trade at all, but it is an option for them if no one particular steps out, kind of like what we're seeing right with wide receiver 4 at this point. No one is stepping out, and so that is something that is intriguing to watch and go forward. Either way, I'm personally fine with watching the situation from afar because you're talking to a guy who wants to get paid $24 million a year, Haason Reddick. I just don't know if that's an option for the Lions. That's way too much money. If that's really what he has, we don't know specifically, but that's the rumor. That's just way too much. So I got a question for you. Would you trade for Haason Reddick? Why for yes and for no? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's go ahead and continue on here and talk about what has took place in training camp. Observations from yesterday's practice. Brandon Joseph recorded his third interception. This guy is really starting to pick up his game. Continue to get interceptions. That's what's going to be good. Brian Branch first drill his one-on-ones was against Jamison Williams. While Lions receiver had a nice release and catch, Branch punched the ball on fumble. Branch's final rep on one-on-ones was against Caden Davis, and he forced another fumble. But this time, Branch caught the fumble in air and took it the other way. Branch is just a fantastic player, and he is a stud for this team. I don't know what else to say here. Pico, defensive tackler, twice beat Frank Ragnow one-on-one drills, in which may have been his first 2 reps. Ragnow lost all training camp, and guess what? He didn't practice, or he didn't suit up even for the game last week in preseason. That's a sign that he's probably going to be with the Lions' 53-man roster. Montgomery remains nearly untouchable in one-on-one drills. He's bested Jack Campbell twice during those reps, and Craig Reynolds was one of the only couple plays where he made players in both ends screw up. Lions looking good right there. Let's continue on. Aiden Hutchinson continues to be a baller, is one of the biggest breakout players for training camp, has been Aiden Hutchinson, and he looks to take that next step. Continue with Darius Fountain mainly with the starters, but he had a rough day. He had a couple drops, and he didn't produce with the starters. It's important for Fountain to get better there. Donovan Peoples-Jones, he got some praise from Campbell before practice, and for the second day in a row, he scored a bomb in one-on-one drills against Ennis Rakeser. However, he did not have a catch during full team drills. Again, inconsistent with Donovan Peoples-Jones. We need him to get better. Biggest winner right now for practice yesterday is Jake Bates. After being widely inconsistent in scrimmage 10 days ago, Bates has gotten a handle of a consistent control. He's nailed a 53-yarder in a game. He boomed a 64-yarder 2 days ago, and on Sunday, he was perfect on the day, kicking 25, 33, 39, and 42. He's on his way. He continues to do this to be the Lions kicker, and that is awesome. We want him to be the Lions kicker. We want him to make this team and be a integral piece in the Lions kicking game. So happy for Bates. He had a little rough period, but now he's doing in a good period where he's getting consistent. Yes, yes, yes. We need that, Bates. We need you, man. Folks, hit that notification bell if you haven't done so.